I had no idea how deep the roots go in this great white north of ours. You know, you don't really view it as a baseball country, but there are some deep, deep roots. He's got some very interesting stories to tell. And of course, one of the reasons that we were going to air it, we even teased airing this interview before the day that the news about Robbie Alomar broke and his indiscretions and then being removed from
the level of excellence
and all that stuff. Literally, that broke the morning that we did the podcast teasing it. And obviously what Robbie Alomar did doesn't remove what he did as a player, but it does make him a shitty human being. And so we just thought that it was in better taste to, air this interview a little bit further down the road. So you will, off the top, the first 5 minutes is us talking about how much we loved Robbie Alomar. This was February. It was a different time, everybody. Yeah. Anyways, that aside, though, the interesting facts about Canadian baseball that this man knows is lovely. Mm-hmm. So we'll air that in about 30 minutes. And of course, all guests here on The Walk-Off are brought to you by YourRate.ca. Darren Brown, the mortgage broker with YourRate.ca. He'll help you out. I know you can do everything to start your process online. Paperless, COVID-friendly. YourRate.ca. You can check us out on Twitter. I run the Twitter account at Walk-Off Podcast. Mr. Mac runs the Instagram. That's the Walk-Off Podcast. And, of course, on YouTube, the Walk-Off Podcast. If you are watching us on YouTube and you have not subscribed, we would appreciate the help. All right. Speaking of guests, I did wish to bring this up because this is kind of cool. So, Taylor Cecido. He is a AAA starter with the Buffalo Bison. He's actually, since Manoa has been brought up, has been the hottest Bison. He's pitching, I think, in 13 innings pitched. He's pitching something like a 1.5 ERA. He's been really good off the top of the season here. So he followed me on the Walk-Off account on Twitter, just out of nowhere. And I was pretty excited about that. I'm like, oh, cool. All right. So I sent him a message right away being like, hey, do you wish to come on the Walk-Off and talk some baseball? And I know I already messaged you instantly, Adam, all excited. I was like, he said, I can't wait. I've been wondering when you guys are going to reach out. I was like, what? You've heard of us? That's pretty cool. It's pretty darn cool, man. And like, I just think it's pretty neat that we're at the point now where we're starting to get recognition from the ball players themselves. Yeah, and even within the Blue Jays organization, I know we talked with Ben Freakley and Jimmy Van Ostren of the mental performance department. This was about a week and a half ago, and they have been nothing but helpful. They've given us emails to other departments within the organization, and it looks like we've got lined up for next week an interview with Dara Harris. She is the assistant director of high performance for the Toronto Blue Jays. So we can kind of get into what the high performance department's all about. And also it's just kind of cool that we're starting to like have emails passed around back and forth to us. Yeah. And so, yeah, I wanted to bring that up because I also want to like show a little gratitude to everyone listening. Like it is mind blowing to me, even though we're still just a small time little Blue Jays podcast, how much growth we've had. Like we're 11 months in. We started this at the beginning of last season. July 7th, I think, was our first episode. And I know you were kind of going over the numbers. We had on average 15 downloads an episode for the first few months, just friends and family, which we're obviously very appreciative of everyone who started out with us. Lord knows there were a lot of bumps in the road and technical issues to deal with before we kind of got the hang of this thing. But to go from 15 people listening to thousands of downloads on our Spotify and Apple and where you get your podcast type of stuff, to go from 0 subscriptions. I think we had 30 subscriptions on our YouTube page January 1st, and we just hit 600.
Yeah, pretty incredible.
On the 2nd of the month here. Yeah, it's crazy. So just to everyone out there who has participated in the Walk-Off community, who has joined us on live streams, who messages us for questions to guests, for everyone who has left a comment on our YouTube page. It is greatly appreciated. All right, enough of the
mushy stuff.
The mushy stuff. Let's get into it, buddy. The Blue Jays. After that 6-game losing streak, they are 6-2 in their last 8 games. They're 4 games above 500, and this lineup, my man, is thumping. Marcus Simeon, American League Player of the Month for May. He had a heck of a May. I think he was hitting something like 368, and I forget what he did. 8 home runs, like just ridiculous numbers. Vladdy, of course, doing what Vladdy does. He's still, I mean, he's been so solid since the beginning of the season that MVP is on everybody's mind right now.
Yeah.
Like we're into June, and he is definite. If they were to do MVP voting right now, if he's not the number 1 guy, he finishes second. And he's in a heck of a home run race, like probably the most fun home run race we've seen in years, bud? All the juniors are at 17 home runs. Ronald Acuna, Fernando Tatis hit 2 yesterday to tie himself up. And, of course, Vladdy Jr. That's pretty cool. And then, buddy, I want to also just bring up Randall Grishik for a second here, because he's kind of our forgotten, unsung hero of this team. He has been so productive and so consistent, which has been something that has surprised a lot of people, because Randall Grishik has been known throughout his career as inconsistent. But Adam, listen to some of these numbers. This is Randall Grishik. This really surprised me, by the way, when this came up. So Randall Grishik's last 162 games for the Blue Jays, he has hit 36 doubles, 4 triples, 38 home runs, 112 RBIs, 95 runs scored, 29 walks, 139 strikeouts. He's batting .267, a .518 slugging percentage. Honestly, a few more walks, and he's a superstar. Like, those are superstar numbers. If you were to take, if instead of 139 strikeouts, it's 100, and instead, you know, those 39 walks go to 39 strikeouts go to walks. It's ridiculous.
So
they're really good numbers.
Is he unmovable now? I know we've talked about him being trade bait material, potentially getting a pitcher back. Is that changed now, or is that made that?
Well, how do you feel about it? Does it change for you? I mean, his value is probably the highest it's ever been, but I know when we talked to Andrew Stoughton on Monday, it was Lourdes Gurriel's name he was throwing out this time. You know, all of a sudden the pundits are throwing out Gurriel's name, but his value's lower now than it was at the beginning of the season.
I guess it depends. It depends on, I guess, where the Jays are at, and whether we're buyers or sellers. You know, the value in Grishik is, I feel like he can help a team compete this year.
That's true.
Gurriel is a piece that I don't think is going to help someone compete this year, but a team that has a pitcher and is a seller and looking to rebuild, Gurriel could be a part of a core moving forward kind of thing, right? Like, he's younger,
and he is under
he's cheaper.
He is a very team-friendly contract. I'm glad you brought that up. Like, Gurriel still has, I think it's another 3 years at, I think it's $3.5 million a year.
So,
whereas Grishik is one of the higher-paid players on this Jays team. I think he's a $12 million a year hit or something like that, 11, somewhere in that range, right?
Yeah.
So there is some value to Gurriel on the standpoint of nobody's off of the trade list. Right? Nobody, he's not too expensive for anyone.
Yeah.
The Pirates should be considering him if he's being tossed around to them, right? So that is one reason Gurriel might have some value still. And Gurriel's a guy, I mean, man, he is hot right now. He's hitting almost 260, and considering he hit like crap in April, it's been fairly impressive. I don't know, man. It's a good question. Should we be looking to shop one of these guys? But I don't know if you caught it. I know I set an alarm when I found out it was happening, but Mark Shapiro had about a 15-minute interview yesterday on Tim and Friends, and he was talking about, it actually gave me hope, dude, because he seemed like he was genuinely into making deals at the trade deadline.
Good.
Like, he seemed like he was optimistic to where the team was at after this onslaught of injuries that they've come out of. He seemed very optimistic at where they were at in the schedule. And let's talk about the schedule for a second. I mean, objectively, the Toronto Blue Jays have had one of the hardest schedules in baseball. Yeah. That's been stated several times. Being a Jays fan and non-objectively, I'm just going to say they did have the hardest schedule, right? Like, and as of June 18th, so right now we've got Houston this weekend, starting today with Zach Greinke on the mound for the Astros.
Nice.
Who is our next couple teams coming up here? Do you have the schedule up by chance, my man?
Yeah, absolutely. I know you asked me before we got started. You said, I got one task for you. Make sure that Blue Jays schedule is up. And I'm not just ranting to fill time because I don't have it up. I absolutely do have it up. It's the,
yeah.
So sorry.
He's not the best co-host in the biz for nothing, folks.
Exactly. So it is the Astros for 3, the White Sox for 3, which, I mean, does it get any better than the White Sox? They might be the best team in the AL right now. Red Sox for 4, Yankees for 3, and then finally into the Orioles. And
so we've got a tough schedule for the next 2 weeks. And then we get a bit of a reprieve. Then it is a time when this team can really make some hay. Starting June 18th, this is what the schedule looks like. They play 3 against the Baltimore Orioles. They play 2 against the Miami Marlins. They play 4 more against the Baltimore Orioles. And then they play 3 against the Seattle Mariners. That is a 12-game stretch where the best team is probably 5 to 7 games under 500 by the time the Jays get to them. Mm-hmm. They're that right now. So if all of these teams just play 500, they're still basement feeding teams in their divisions. This is a schedule that we could see George Springer back by then. That's another thing with injuries, is that they're making progress. Guys are starting to come back. I know George Springer was running. He was catching the ball out in center field. He was sprinting from base to base. He's getting very close to being back. Now, is there a date? Absolutely not. I think the Blue Jays have learned after the fiasco they went through the last time, they kept putting dates on when George was coming back. And every time they had to push that date, all the Jays fans were like, what the hell? As we should be. So this way of going about it, at least Jays fans aren't losing their mind. But I think what's going to happen with George Springer is we're just all going to wake up one day and he will be reinstated. And Montoya will be having a press conference being like, oh, yeah, he's progressed and he is ready and he's starting in center field today. We don't know when that is. Could be next week. Could still be a few weeks away. But I think he's getting very, very close. If he's out there sprinting, that's his biggest obstacle to overcome with that oblique and the quad injury.
Here's my do you want my bad take, my sad take on the schedule?
Sure. Yeah.
We do have those 12 nice games against the Orioles, Marlins, Orioles, and Mariners. But as we said, we are coming into
a bit of a meat grinder, bunch of top teams.
So it's 13 games against some of the top teams in the AL. We're 4 games above 500 right now.
I think if we can come out of that 7-6 in those 13 games, that's a successful little run there.
I can't imagine we do that.
Really?
You think we're going to finish above 500 against the Astros, White Sox, Red Sox, and Yankees?
Well, if they don't, they're not a contending team.
This is my one concern with this young core right now is I haven't seen us do it yet. We're 4 games above 500 right now. Kind of what I expect is to go like 5-8 against the good teams and then 8-5 against the bad teams and come out on the other side of it and still be just
4 games above 500.
Yeah.
Right. So July 1st.
July 1st, we're going to be, I mean, market, we're going to be 4 games above 500.
Well, I hope you're wrong, but it is possible. I mean, they had a huge comeback win on Wednesday.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that? Because I missed it.
It was a heck of a win, man. And it was the first time this year that you've seen this team do that. Like, this was a game that they just lost in April and May.
Yeah.
They were down 5-2. They had some incredibly timely at-bats from the bottom of the batting order in that bottom of the 9th inning. They turned the order over, right? Reese McGuire came up, he got a single. Simeon comes up, he gets a single. They didn't win this through home runs and powering their way to the win, which is how they have done this so far this season. It was really a good game to see, man. And you could tell that there was a little bit more zip in everyone's step, a little bit more determination. And I think a big part of it, man, was playing in Buffalo, playing in front of actual Jays fans, people who that when they did get that hit in the bottom of the 9th to start the inning off and they're down by 2, the fans are on their feet and they're screaming and yelling and the top of the order's coming up and Marcus Simeon's pumped and he goes to the plate. And I'm not saying that these guys aren't determined 100% of the time. Of course they are. But there is
they call it home field
intangible
advantage for a reason, right?
Yes, exactly. Thank you. There is this intangible aspect to having the home fans cheering you on. And that was something they didn't have in Dunedin. In fact, if anything, it was almost like they were playing road games all the time.
All these retired fans from other teams kept coming out.
Yeah. I don't know. I truly appreciate what you're saying schedule-wise. I hope you're wrong. You're making sense. You know what it is, man? Honestly, if what you said is true, they're probably not going to make the playoffs.
I guess we'll see. Like, I hate to be a negative Nancy, but I mean, we play good against good teams, but we don't put the boots to the bad teams like we should.
It's true.
We're gonna go.
Yeah, which is funny you say.
Yankees, and then we play the Angels, and we split. Yeah, like I kind of
like
expect...
it would be really.
Sorry, go ahead, man.
No. I'm just saying it would be really funny if your prediction was dead on, but it was more like we played 7-6 against this team, and then this 13.
Yeah.
This 13 game stretch, we would go 7-6, and then we wind up going like something ridiculous, like 6-6 against the
bad teams.
The bad teams, right? Which is what we do need to avoid happening.
I mean, we stole a season or a series win against the Marlins. Like, I mean, I didn't watch the game, but I mean, I was keeping track of it on my phone, and after going down 4-1 to the Marlins on Wednesday, I thought, well, this is the Jays. Like, we show up good for one. Like, it's the Marlins.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that shouldn't have been a close game.
Well, the Marlins are better than people are giving them credit for. They're not that terrible of a team, man. They're just a young core team that's like, they're what the Jays were a year ago, 2 years ago.
Sure, but those are still games that we need to just win.
I agree we need to win those games, and they did. In fact, it's kind of impressive. They went down and they still managed a way to come back. And there were some positives of that game that we haven't even touched on yet. I really thought Alec Manoa handled himself incredibly well. He didn't get through the innings he wished to get through. He allowed 4 runs for the first time in his major league career. Obviously, he was going to allow some runs. Nobody pitches a 0 ERA. Just ask Tim Meza. He got pulled. I think it was 3.1 innings. And honestly, man, he was in good spirits. He was still cheering on the team from the bench. He didn't have a Steven Matz flip out. He just literally took it as a learning experience. He just wasn't hitting his spots as regularly as he should be, and he was relying on the quality of his stuff. And I think it was a good learning experience that if you're just if you're going to go from hitting your spot within like a 3-inch area, right? And all of a sudden that area is like 8 inches, you're going to get hit, and guys are going to take walks. I don't know, man. I'm feeling positive about the Jays right now, and I think you're right. I think this is going to be a real litmus test over the next 13 days to see where this team is at. But if they manage to keep their head above water and play above 500 ball against these teams, there's no reason they don't make hay against the Orioles, Marlins, and Mariners. And if they can't do that, then they are really not a playoff team.
Yeah. Well, it'll come. I just like this is part of being a young core, is learning the importance of winning the games that you need to just win. And that's why the Rays are first in the AL East right now. That team has that built into them right now of like, what do they rattle off? 14
it's annoying,
games
but they do,
or something like that.
Nope, for sure.
Let's do a quick. It's just frustrating to be 6-3 against the Yankees.
Yeah,
and then like
I know.
Against everybody
3-1 again. Yeah, and 1-3 against the Rangers. I know, man. Yeah.
It's just we've got all the parts to put it together, and when we're just throwing stuff away, it's hard. So, anyways, let's move on. I'm still positive about this team. It's just part of being a young core and learning how to win. You learn how to play baseball first, and then you learn how to win. All these kids know how to play baseball, and now they're learning how to win. So it'll come.
Speaking of learning, let's do a quick prospect update here, because our New Hampshire Fisher Cats are on fire right now. Of course, Simeon Richardson is the big prospect everyone's watching in AA. He is currently playing with Team USA, which we will get into this Olympic qualifier that's going on currently in just a few seconds. So Simeon Richardson pitching great currently. He is at a 2.37 ERA over 19 innings. He's walked 8 guys with 31 strikeouts.
You like to see that?
Yes, he's almost 2 strikeouts an inning. It's very, very impressive. Gabrielle Morano, our number 1 catching prospect on the Fisher Cats, is hammering the ball. He has got 3 home runs, 83 plate appearances. He's hitting .389, 7 walks, 16 Ks. The guy is big league bound. If it's not this year, he's sure going to be putting the pressure on the catchers on this team by next year. Jordan Groshans, he started incredibly slow, and then he got injured. Since coming back from injury, he has been hot. He's hit a home run. He's hit a few doubles. He's hitting just over 300. Currently for the season, though, he's hitting .233 with 7 walks and 18 strikeouts. Austin Martin, our number 2 prospect overall, just behind Nate Pearson. He is at 92 plate appearances. He hit his first home run of his professional career yesterday. Nice. He's hitting .270, 400 on base percentage, 12 walks, and 25 Ks. The boys look good in New Hampshire. I know we interviewed both Adam Kloffenstein and CJ Van Eyck over the offseason, during spring training, I should say. So Kloffenstein and CJ Van Eyck are both 20. They're both young kids. They probably were 2 of the men that this shutdown affected the most. CJ Van Eyck was drafted in 2019, so he didn't even get a chance to get his feet wet in professional ball. Adam Kloffenstein had played in the Gulf Coast League, got his feet wet with, at the time, low A Vancouver Canadians, who are now the high A affiliate of the Toronto Blue Jays. But they're both looking phenomenal. They're carrying this Canadians team. Kloffenstein currently got roughed up last outing. So even though he has a 7 ERA, he has been very, very good. He's got 14 strikeouts. But CJ Van Eyck is who is just everyone is so excited about. He's pitched 20 innings. He's got 10 walks, 21 strikeouts in 20 innings. And I was reading, Sportsnet just has an interview up about Van Eyck currently on their website. And it's really interesting the approach they're taking with Van Eyck. What they have done for him is they literally took him aside. They're like, we do not care about your ERA. We do not care about your numbers. This is what we would like to see from you. We would like to see you hitting the strike zone 65% of the time. We would like to see you using all 4 of your pitches with a minimum 10% each. And it's been tough on him. You read in the article, and he kind of mentions it's been weird having a mindset of, you know what, I fill up the strike zone and I don't worry about it. But one of the things that they have been talking to him about is that because he does have such dominant stuff, especially his fastball for a 20-year-old kid, he's already touching 95, 96, that they would like him to worry about getting outs more often. Right? So that he can go deeper into games. That's their goal right now. Fill up the strike zone, let guys get some ground ball outs, let your fielders bail you out. Right. So this is exciting, man. CJ Van Eyck has made, for Sportsnet to come out and write an article talking about how much progress he's made, you know he's making progress.
Oh, that's good.
So this is great news for Toronto Blue Jays fans. Our prospects are really making some hay. And I don't think anybody is on the verge right now. Maybe Morano. Maybe we see something like a Kirk scenario in September. Right. Maybe. Right. Because catcher is probably our biggest void right now for position players. But 2022 is going to be an exciting time. I think guys like Austin Martin, I think guys like Jordan Groshans are going to really start pushing this organization to start figuring out where they place with this big league team.
Very cool.
All right, my man, let's talk about this Olympic qualifier, because Team Canada has been phenomenal and they actually made it into the super round. If you wish to you're the expert here on how this tournament works. I know we've both been frustrated with this tournament because we both know baseball and we're like, how is this so difficult to figure out how it works? Like, if you can't take baseball fans and then figure it out, what chance does anyone have? Like,
well, it's too bad, because I mean, this tournament should be a big deal, but if it feels like it's not. Like,
I know,
like I don't even take the tournament. I don't think the tournament even takes itself seriously.
Yeah,
it just feels like a little bit of an afterthought, which is too bad. The website's hard to navigate. Like, if you go to wbsc.org, it's even hard to find the schedule. It's hard to find the standings when you get to the standings. Like, runs for and against matter in this tournament. And
run differential's a big deal.
And it's not listed on the standings page.
So you need to do it yourself, which Adam has been doing. And if you want to check it out, you can check it out on our Instagram page. But nonetheless, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, so it just feels like whoever was in charge of building this website doesn't even follow baseball. I don't really know what else to say. Canada is on to the super round, which won't really mean anything to you if you're not following the tournament at all. But basically, they're the final 4 teams left out of 8 here. So it's the USA, Venezuela, Canada, and the Dominican Republic. We have a game against the USA later today. That is at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, I guess, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then we play the Dominican tomorrow at 11 a.m. East. What time zone are we, Scott? Mountain Time?
Yeah.
I just said it too. Canada versus USA today. Canada versus Dominican Republic tomorrow. Those are our last 2 games of the tournament.
Huge games.
Huge games. Of these 4 teams that are left, 1 gets a berth at the Olympics in Tokyo this year. 1 team gets eliminated altogether and has no shot. And then the 2nd and 3rd place teams immediately fly down to Mexico City for 1 last shot at the Olympics. So they'll be joined by teams from, I believe, Asia. I don't know all the teams that are there. I should have had that ready. Mm-hmm. But it'll be another small tournament. with one more Olympic spot on the line. So I don't know if Canada has a realistic shot at finishing first. We kind of really needs
losing to Venezuela. So basically the way it works is we need everybody to finish 2-1, and then it goes to who has the most run differential. It also goes to head to head. So let's say Team USA and Team Canada are tied. Who won the battle between those two?
Right.
It's a really weird, and Adam and I have talked about this too. What's really funny about this tournament is the potential for it to have been something huge was through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why they didn't take this tournament that they're just going to send these two other teams down to Mexico in a week. Why they didn't just combine the tournament, make it a big tournament. Top 3 teams move on. Gold, silver, bronze, like they do in the Olympics. Like I don't even understand why there's all this run differential. The top team, and it doesn't matter who they beat. This is all just based on record, right? Like this is just they're just all playing each other, and then you go to the record. So even though Canada has advanced to the super round, it's just because they're eliminating the teams that have already lost twice, so that they're not even, I don't know. Anyways,
it's frustrating.
It is pretty cool. Canada's there. We've got a bunch of guys that we've talked to on the show, on the team. Michael Krause, Tyson Gillies, Scotty Richmond, who sat down with us just last Monday. His interview is up on our YouTube page currently, and he had some great things to say. And we're cheering the boys on. But boy, it would sure be nice if this tournament was given the platform it deserves.
You know what it is? I think it's the international hockey fan inside of me that really wishes this was
a big deal,
on a bigger stage than it is, because it's not. Like, I mean, I don't know what else to say about it, really. It's cool. Who doesn't love cheering for their country? It just feels like an afterthought, and I don't think it should be.
Agreed.
So, anyways, Canada.
Did you have anything else to add for the Olympic qualifier or Blue Jays in general?
No, I'm done.
Okay, then let's move on to the last thing we'd like to talk about before we throw to Scott Crawford of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame here. His interview was fantastic. But I don't know if you saw it, Theo Epstein actually came out just like 3 days ago. And of course, we talked about this last Friday, the sticky stuff that has become such a prevalent problem in this league. And basically baseball has finally come out and they have said, we are actually going to start taking this seriously. We're going to actually start to crack down on this. And there was actually just another scary moment, this time a little closer to home when it comes to Blue Jays fans. Breivik Valera, some of you might remember him. He was picked up off of waivers. He was in spring training for the Jays, vying for that Rowdy Tellez spot at first base off the bench. He was hit in the face with a 91-mile-an-hour slider, and the pitcher just looked like it just spun off his hand out of control. So again, I know we've brought this up before, that the sticky stuff is putting so much spin on the ball that what they were originally using pine tar for was to not hit batters, to have a little bit more control, but stuff has become so sticky that now they're losing control with how much spin they're putting on it. And this was another example of that. So they are going to start to crack down and give out real suspensions if they find doctored balls. They're going to, kind of like you mentioned on Friday, Adam, where you were like, what they need to do is they need to sticky these balls with their own thing before the games. And then anything other than that found on the ball, you're just automatically suspended, right? A very strict policy, very similar to steroids. And it's the only way you're going to fix the problem. We're not going to deep dive into it too much. I know if you are interested, on the end of our last podcast, we get into about 15 minutes of it. But this is an interesting little stat I did wish to bring up. With this crackdown coming, Garrett Cole pitched a game 3 days ago.
Okay. And
his spin weight was down dramatically. Like the lowest it has been since early 2018. He was down on his fastball 200 revolutions a minute. Down on his knuckle curve 500 revolutions per minute. Down 200 revolutions per minute on his change, and on his slider 400 revolutions per minute. Like drastic stuff. So obviously Cole is, before getting the big suspension, trying to figure out how to pitch without this sticky stuff. And he's not as good. I mean, don't get me wrong, Garrett Cole is still an exceptional pitcher, and he might be fine, but he might not be fine.
He might not. I mean, it's really easy for us to put too much emphasis on spin rate.
100%.
But also, I don't think we are. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. You and I have kind of been on spin rate as an analytic for almost since we started this podcast. Mm-hmm. I know that's one of the reasons we're so high on Joey Murray. It's something that is kind of, I don't want to say confusing, but maybe misunderstood by the casual fan. But it's such an important factor in what a pitch does.
I mean, it is the difference between a 91 mile an hour fastball being high and outside the zone and not swinging, and it being high and outside the zone and swinging. Because what happens is it looks like it's rising. It looks like it's rising. So all of these guys who are throwing like his knuckle curve that I just gave the example of there for Garrett Cole. So he throws that knuckle curve, and a knuckle curve is going to like flutter and look weird, and then it's just going to drop, right? So with a high spin rate, he can make it look like it's not going to drop, and all of a sudden it's on that batter's plane of view, and it just still looks like it's going, and they're swinging, and then it does drop, and now they look like complete idiots because it's just staying in the plane of that the hitter's plane just a little bit longer before it takes that dip. I don't know, man. It's a pretty big thing to need to deal with, and I'm really curious to see what happens here. We could see a lot of pitchers take a dramatic turn down, and if one of those dramatic turn downs is Garrett Cole, well, the Yankees have him on the books for 8 more years and $280 million to go. So, whoo.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know what
Don't
else.
cheat.
Don't cheat. I mean, I will just point out, though, a 10-game suspension for a pitcher is only 2 starts.
It's true.
So it's, I mean, 2 starts is still a big deal when you only get maybe 30 starts in a season.
Yeah.
But just keep that in mind. I don't think any pitcher wants to lose 2 starts, though, because those wins are pretty valuable. So
that's right. And in a time when analytics mean everything and every stat you can put on the board means more money for you, you don't wish to be missing games.
No, absolutely.
I mean, Garrett Cole's a different animal altogether because he's got so much money on the books and he's under contract for so long it doesn't matter. But
it's just a thing of being a 20-win pitcher going into free agency as opposed to being
or a 12
or even being an 18-win pitcher.
Yeah.
Right?
No, you're right.
Like so it is significant.
It is significant. Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Honestly, always appreciate you tuning in. We already did our big gratitude thing, but it does mean a lot that you are tuning in, that you're spreading the word and joining the community and spreading the love. You can check us out on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast, the Walk Off Podcast on Instagram. Please subscribe and like and get the word out there for YouTube. That's the Walk Off Podcast. Please enjoy Scott Crawford, just a killer interview with the head of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Take care. See you next Tuesday.
Go Jays, go.